So we did our project on the Rose Fitzgerald Kennedy Greenway, which is a greenway in Boston and an important land reclamation project. The Greenway was an integral part of the Boston 2000 plan, which was focused on air quality rights in the Causeway area. Due to this focus on green space and oxygenation, 75% of the land used for the Greenway is devoted to public facilities and open spaces. The other 25% is for commercial and residential use. The Rose Fitzgerald Kennedy Greenway Conservancy was established in 2004 in anticipation of the project and functions as an enforcement to maintain and operate the Greenway parks. The project was completed in 2010. The Greenway, according to the Conservancy, quote, is a linear park constructed along an abandoned railroad right-of-way, linking together several significant open space areas in East Boston, including Pierce Park, Memorial Stadium, Bremen Street Park, Wood Island Bay Marsh, and Belle Isle Marsh. It reclaims an old section of the MBTA and opens up the area to more green space and plant life. Robert Morris, a reclamation land artist and a member of the earthworks movement started by Robert Smithson, hoped that, quote, reclamation works would not be promoted solely on the basis of their economics or their utility, but would be valued as artworks as well, end quote. The Greenway is no exception, as it has become an important location for public art in the city. Morris also warned artists that, quote, their works might be used to aid or disguise questionable resource development policies, end quote. Although he was referring to strip mining, the Greenway is applicable to Morris's warning because the Greenway in many ways was established to increase property values in South Boston. The Greenway has had an important role for land artists because it allows them to break out of the traditional sphere of the art world. Patricia Johansson, creator of Fair Park Lagoon, says, the real reason I only design parks and fountains these days is I'm sick of the whole museum, collector, auction house complex with all of their self-congratulatory prattle about how much they're doing for culture. Johansson, as many other public artists have achieved and continue to achieve, is interacting with her public through her art. She is trying, as are many of her contemporaries, to reconcile environmental art with a social purpose.
Presently, the Greenway functions on a variety of levels for Boston community. Importantly, it provides a free and public space for communal gathering, offering a connection between the previously divided North End and the rest of the city. This space also provides access to a variety of local plant life, inspiring the community to engage with their environment. Lastly, the Greenway functions as a site of public art installations. These contemporary installations, including works done by artists such as Ai Weiwei and Carolina Aragon, are meant to provide a platform for thinking about how we interact with our environment. Carolina Aragon's work, High Tide, functions as a reminder of our changing landscape and tides. Her artwork seeks to connect communities to their local landscapes by creating interactive installations that act as environmental sensors, reacting to changing atmospheric conditions of light and wind. Her work seeks to appeal to the visceral and the intellectual, sharpening our senses and heightening our understandings of the world around us. The Boston Greenway can be further appreciated when viewed through an ecofeminist lens. Generally, ecofeminism aims to recognize the history of shared oppression between the environment and women, inclusive of race and class. Modern ecofeminist art often operates as restorative projects that aim at recognizing the value of the environment or oppressed groups, and promoting a new way of thinking about our behaviors. As a public project, the Greenway incorporates these ecofeminist ideals in its very nature, aiming to create a space where people of all backgrounds can commune and be engaged in discussions regarding ecology. As cited on the Greenway's website, quote, our park environment is closely tied to our social and economic environments. We must use the land and our public spaces in ways that ensure the same or better conditions for future generations, end quote. By creating a space for community building centered around the environment, the Greenway functions as an ecofeminist project. Furthermore, by employing sustainable landscape practices, the Greenway creates a zero-net impact, removing itself from perpetuating environmental degradation. Lastly, as a host of contemporary eco-art, the Greenway provides a space for expression of ecofeminist ideas created by other artists. Because the Greenway is free and open to the public, it provides a link between communities who may not have otherwise been exposed to ecologically minded art, prompting a new generation to critically analyze the ideas expressed on and through the Greenway. While there are many benefits to the Greenway, the project has not escaped critique. For many, the Greenway represents the growing gentrification of Boston, forcing low-income people out of affordable housing. From 1990 to 2000, 6.7% of neighborhoods at risk for gentrification became gentrified, according to the American Community Survey. From 2000 to present, 21.1% of at-risk neighborhoods became gentrified. While this data cannot be directly linked to the creation of the Greenway, typically investment in public work projects such as the Greenway lead to an increase in property value. If the Greenway is not a direct cause of some of Boston's growing gentrification, it offers a symptom of a gentrifying city. Further critique of the Greenway comes from the fact that the Greenway is viewed largely as a design disaster, quote from the Boston Globe. As reported by the Boston Globe and several other local publications, the designers of the Greenway failed to take into account a practical design that would allow a functional public space during all 4 seasons. While the goal of the Greenway was to provide a public gathering space, it has been called, quote, a placeless desert. It's a series of oversized, spaceless shapes, none of which seem to have a purpose. There are things to look at but nothing to do, end quote. By failing to create functional spaces within the Greenway, such as a YMCA, the community building aspect of the Greenway is largely underutilized.
The environmental goals for the Greenway are sustainable landscape, net zero environmental footprint, organic maintenance, which means avoiding the use of toxic pesticides, herbicides, and fungicides for horticultural care, and avoiding toxic chemicals or compounds for maintaining or repairing hard surfaces. And finally, for it to be sustainable for future generations. The key benefits of sustainable landscape management practices on the Greenway encompass socio-economic and environmental aspects. The environmental aspects are to offer a healthy, environmentally friendly public space for park users, particularly for children, to support the Boston Harbor cleanup efforts by reducing discharge of excess chemicals from the Greenway Park's runoff, to minimize solid waste processing through composting, to conserve natural resources through water management, and for economic, it is to reduce maintenance costs by developing resilient plantings that require less labor and materials, to optimize life cycle performance of park infrastructure and horticultural collections, to increase marketability of adjacent real estate, to reduce costs of water and electricity, and socially to promote involvement and investment in broader community objectives, to contribute to the overall quality of life, to promote park users' sense of pride and investment in their public assets, and to create a robust community building programs in the park. The environmental implications in Long Wharf are the increasing flooding. The king tides are defined as the highest tides of the year, which occur when the sun, earth, and moon are as close to each other as possible in their relative orbits. The king tides as of late have been 2 feet higher than average, and this height indicates what the average high tide may be around mid-century. A consequence regarding the Greenway is that coastal distance around the Long Wharf region will shrink over time, making the Greenway closer to shore than it already is and taking up real estate that pre-exists on the coast. Here is a portion of a video that shows the king tides. As for the political usage of the Greenway, during Occupy Boston in 2011, protesters occupied the Greenway. Police entered the Greenway after 1:20 a.m. one night, and each protester was individually put on his or her stomach, cable tied, and dragged off as others tore down tents and arrested and detained people on the fringe of the park. The reasoning for this action by the police was that officials did not want the protesters, who originally settled in Dewey Square, to occupy the space across Congress Street on the Greenway, because it recently underwent a renovation project where expensive improvements were added. This begs the question, can the Greenway not be used for political purposes? Must its improvements take priority?